Welcome to the latest episode of Platform. Today, I'm going to be speaking to Chase Rushing. Chase, as many people might not be aware, was actually, put out quite a few sections in his time, but most recently, he has designed the artwork that appears on the John Bolino Pro Skate. So he designed artwork that I think he did the stuff that appears on the cuff, on the sole plate, on the wheels, and on the insoles. Previous to that, years ago, I want to say around about the 2010s, he appeared in quite a few Brandon Negrete videos. He was in Forever Now, he was in The Meantime, and Road to Nowhere. He was also in the Black Fabric Team video by Lonnie Gallegos called Staggering Artwork of Heartbreaking Genius. Yeah, that's right. It's a mouthful, which is based upon quite a famous book. And Chase was kind of one of the outliers of his generation of skating. He kind of he just didn't really fit in with what was popular at the time. So that's when the era of blading was really going towards bigger skating, harder skating, people jumping off roofs, grinding off roofs, finding the biggest stair sets they could, finding horrible, big, terrifying drop rails to do technical stuff down or disaster down. And Chase was always focused on the kind of more creative aspect. So he was one of the few people that was really into doing toe rolls and, more importantly, doing like pivots on toe rolls and just, exploring a lot of flatland tricks. But he could also hold his own and do really technical stuff as well. Like, he could do like true spin topside L's down rails that drop down and stuff like that, or he could easily handle, doing a gap or fiving over a fence or whatever. But he just seemed to explore the more artistic side of blading, which a lot of people credit, things like mushroom blading and stuff like that now for, but he was also doing it around that time as well. People like Micah Yeager as well, who's also from Texas, like he is. So I basically just want to touch on, where he's been, because he's not been active in blading for quite a few years now, and also how he got involved with Mesmer to do the artwork for them, if he's going to be involved in any other projects for Mesmer in the future, what he's doing with his life now, and what it was like just working on those really important videos with Brandon Negrete, and just his time traveling to California from Texas to film sections, and just find out as much as possible. I'm a really big fan of Chase Rushing. I love that kind of aspect of blading that just goes against what everyone else is doing at the time. I think it's really important, and it offers different avenues to something that we all deeply care about. So I'm really looking forward to talking to him. Before that, though, cue the music.
Well, hello.
How you doing?
Oh, good.
So it kind of sounds like work's been a bit crazy the past couple of days. What do you do for work? What's been going on?
Work at a cafe,
Okay.
and with just COVID, it's been ridiculous. Like as soon as the kitchen staff will be all good to go, then more than not, more people will be sick up front, like the serving staff.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to get a balance, and we've been running it really just bare bones staff.
Okay.
So it's not normally like that. It's kind of a easy, cushy job. But hectic.
All right. I've spent many years working in the service industry. It's not always that easy, but I can imagine with COVID, it's made it pretty intense, especially with like rules and restrictions and stuff like that.
Yeah, being fair to people's just opinions and just how they want to go about, like, say, being vaccinated, not vaccinated. I don't want to get into any of that with anyone.
Yeah.
It becomes before you get their drink order, that might come up, and it's just been I don't know. You feel like I've almost been I have to put on a whole different spiel, or I'm putting on like a whole play the whole time I'm there. Like it's been intense.
Yeah. Plus, I can imagine you must be overhearing a lot of people's conversations about stuff like that as well, and just being like, okay, I'll just block that out and pretend that's not happening.
Yeah, like it's kind of like the conversations will just drop. Like we'll be okay, and then you just kind of walk off and find someone else to chat with. So it can be fun in that way. Like it's just I like to be a little bit more like real with people normally. So it's been a lot of just like false kind of small talk. So
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. Whereabouts in Texas do you live? Do you live in Austin, or have I guessed wrong?
well, here I don't want to sound like an idiot, but I'm trying to make sure I like make eye contact. Should I look
I
here?
mean, that's physically impossible because for me to look at you, I have to look away from the webcam, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm still new, like I was saying to this. Oh, I'm in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
So
Have you always lived
yeah,
there?
pretty much like within 30 minutes. Like sometimes I've lived in the suburbs,
Right.
and now technically, if I look out my window, I could see downtown Dallas.
Okay.
So it's the closest I guess I've been to like just living in Dallas.
Right. So all that footage that I used to see of you and like Farmer and stuff like that, that was all in Dallas.
Yeah, in kind of the more suburb, like North Dallas.
Right.
It's pretty close to where Eisenberg Skate Park was,
Okay. Yeah. Plano.
and
Yeah.
that was in Plano. Yeah, and so that was like when Chris lived here. Let's see, that was probably like 15 minutes away at most times because we moved a few different, like the whole group of skaters. We all kind of moved to different apartments, things like that, but we all kind of stayed in the basic metroplex.
Right.
So yeah, Eisenberg's is a big spot to go to.
That was
So we
that was still open. Like Eisenberg's was still open when Farmer moved to Texas. I thought that would have closed.
yeah,
All right.
well, because I guess I don't know the exact date that they closed it. Because it's been demolished now. It's not even there. Like
Yeah.
not even the building. It's been a while, but yeah, they were like summer camp was kind of a big thing, like skating camp. So Chris would go there. Pretty much, I remember I worked at Starbucks at the time, so I would just show up and provide coffee and like skate with some of the kids. It was pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know exactly when they closed it, but it was going strong when Chris lived here.
All right. Yeah, I just remember thinking that was really random when he moved from Minnesota and he was like obviously coming up in skating, becoming huge, getting sponsored by like Shadow and Mind Game and stuff like that. And he decided to relocate to Texas. And I remember thinking it's like, Texas has always had a strong scene and a lot of great skaters, but you wouldn't exactly call it like a hub for blading, if you know what I mean. Like it's not like the industry wasn't there. There was no brands there. So it seemed like a strange move.
Yeah, it was. I guess Negretti was filming for the Mind Game video. I think it was Bang.
Bang, yeah.
So yeah, they were just going around. They filmed all the time out in California because I think like Feinberg and Campbell lived together.
Okay.
And yeah, everything in California seemed pretty close. Like I guess that's where Farmer would visit a lot out there.
Yeah.
And I ended up going out to film with Negretti around the same time for Forever Now. Like before, I guess we had met before they started filming for Mind Game, but they were already starting to like collect clips, things like that. So I met Chris, we became friends. And then their, I guess, tour for the Bang filming, they were able to come through Dallas. So basically he just kind of hung out there with like my crew, like my friends, and we all just kind of hit it off. He ended up meeting a girl that he liked.
All right. Now it's making more sense. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So like find that. I mean, I don't want to, talk about too much like non-skating stuff, but yeah, he well, I just don't want him to get, mad or anything. It's been a while. But yeah, he met a girl. She convinced him then along with us, and seeing like there was a scene, like a skate scene, like he would have people to session with. And yeah, he moved here, I guess, for skating and then for that girl. And then Yeah. So it really helped me having like, he had a camera, which a couple of my friends, they were using GL1s or GL2s,
Yeah,
I
I know what
think.
you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's like even one kid with the Sony VX 2000. So we got footage, but it just wasn't as like business, I guess, because Chris, that was like his job was to go out and skate. So anytime I had time off, we would just kind of not get lost, but just go to different parts of Dallas and like suburbs around.
Right.
And Dallas is so big that there's quite a bit.
Oh yeah, I can imagine because because the City Never Sleeps was filmed in Dallas, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's Brian
Brian Moore.
Gimo.
Yeah.
Brian, yeah, and he was in the same crew. Like I guess we all sort of started to move to the Metroplex because he lived a little bit further out. I think near like Mansfield,
Okay.
which is just like a bit further out suburb. But yeah, once we all kind of came together, Brian was like always in the picture, and he really liked filming like almost just as much as skating. So yeah, he ended up, yeah, you saw The City Never Sleeps later on. So that's
Right.
kind of like their, I don't know, good mix of Dallas, like sort of the architecture.
Okay. Yeah, because I've met like a couple of guys that were in the video. I've met Josh Glowacki a few times before,
Yeah,
and
cool, cool.
who else was in it? Fritz was in it. It was Keaton.
Oh yeah,
Keaton had a section as well, didn't he?
he did.
I've met
And
yeah, I've met Keaton a couple of times before as well. Yeah.
Keaton, he was great. So, I mean, they're,
Um. Right.
oh,
Okay. We're totally going on a tangent because I wanted to ask you about this later, but yeah. So I was very surprised when this popped up
oh yeah.
because as soon as they started advertising the skate with the artwork for the Mesmer John Bolino Pro Skate, I was like, I've seen that artwork before because I'd only recently, like within the last year, realized that you had an Instagram account and started following you and saw the artwork and instantly like the drawings were familiar. How did you end up doing stuff for Mesmer? Because did you know
Um,
Billy or John before, or how did that come about?
well, I met like Billy a long, long time ago. It was in like Atlanta, I think at a Super Hick.
Okay.
That was like, geez, like 2002, maybe 2003.
Yeah.
And I was there with Lonnie Gallegos,
Oh yeah.
and we were filming for, it was the Black Fabric video, which was, I guess, pre Feet, because I know he had like the Feet series.
Oh yeah. It was like a staggering artwork of Art Breaking Genius.
Oh,
That was way before the Feet series. Yeah.
yeah, cool. Okay, well, because I didn't know like who's seen it or all that, but I know that at the time, my favorite, I guess my favorite skater at the time was Ryan Northway,
Right.
and
Okay.
so kind of like I geeked out constantly, like getting to skate with him, and so I thought the video like people had seen it, like pretty widespread, but it was, I guess distribution was different back then, and so
Yeah. Plus, that was when everything was slowing down and bleeding. Everything was a lot smaller. But yeah, that was actually the first video that I saw you in. You and Michael Stein.
oh yeah, my cool. And he's like basically like he grew up kind of like my brother, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I should have mentioned Michael. So yeah, but Michael is always a big influence too. Sorry, I don't want to keep like trailing off.
That's all right.
But yeah, okay, so yeah, I met Billy a long time ago, and then basically Bolino had been like one of my favorite skaters, and I knew friends of his, he knew friends of mine. I didn't really get to like hang out.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool whenever I got just like the question came up like, hey, would you want to do some work for the skates? Like we've already found some pictures that we like. And here, this is kind of what it's going to look like. I got like a test photo of the sole,
Okay.
and it was as it is now. And it was really exciting because I don't know, I tend to overthink things and put too much pressure whenever I'm like developing something for something. Like I overthink it for at least a week or two. and then it kind of becomes like, oh, maybe that'll work, and like it either does or doesn't. But to see it all together, like my drawings like decidedly like put together on the sole plate, it was cool. It just kind of it clicked. I mean, I just hope other people think it looks all right.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like the artwork is. I've got the box here as well. It's on the side of the box. It's on the sole plate. It's on the wheels.
Yeah.
It's on the insole. Did you do the eyeball on the cuff as well?
No, I wasn't sure who did that. It's been kind of cool.
I think it might have been Mark. It might have been Mark Moreno that did, because I know he does a lot.
Yeah, and then I just saw that Levy had the bat like Mesmer shirt.
Yeah,
that he designed, and so I wasn't sure if it was him or Mark, but I thought that was super cool.
Actually, like all of them, Dominic Bruce as well does a lot of artwork as well, so it could very easily be any of them. Yeah,
I saw some charcoal or some drawings of his on Instagram, and it was cool. It's cool when you see something that isn't, I don't know. It's just in such a. It excited me. It was a cool, cool style.
Yeah. So so you kind of alluded to it. So you didn't have to come up with the concepts themselves. They said like, this is what we want. We just want you to do it in your style.
Yeah, and then if I could maybe come up with anything else, like in the weeks like that, it all kind of happened pretty quickly too. I guess there were a few more drawings that I sent to Mark for the instruction booklet,
right?
Or like the booklet that comes in the skates. And so I haven't seen that, if that came out or not, but
I've got the book in the box, but I didn't open it, so I've actually not looked.
Oh, cool! Because I think there's like 2 drawings that might be in there that wouldn't be on the sole plate or on the box,
right?
For the skates. So it's just been really cool. Like just whenever there's like a new Instagram post by Mesmer, like their whole layout, like the way they're doing everything is so cool.
Yeah, the kind of branding that they've done for it has been like very strong and very consistent from like the first like thing that they started showing. It's really interesting to see.
Well, yeah, like even if I had no involvement with like the art part, I would still be equally like geeking out. Like I don't know, everything's very exciting right now in skating. So
over the past couple of years, it feels like there's a new like sense of, I don't know, optimism or hope, just because a lot of people are getting back into it and sales are starting to go up and people are starting to see that they can, I don't know, like riders are starting to get better royalties and things like that. And I think it is kind of bringing this fresh wave of optimism to it, like, oh, like maybe we can make a go of it again, or maybe it can just not be just a hobby for some people, or some people can actually like properly pursue it again. So
yeah, it's like it's getting like I don't know, just respect, like just a respect level that just seems more appropriate. Like yeah, it's not like there's some hurdle that has to be overcome first to be seen as like legitimate, or not just like you said, like a hobby.
Yeah, it's definitely getting like a lot more mainstream attention as well in the past like 12 months, like 18 months. So that's quite interesting as well. It'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Well, quad skating too. I've seen a lot of like quad love, so that's cool.
Yeah. It's so interesting that for so many years we basically tried to, I don't know if we tried to separate themselves from them or they tried to separate themselves from us, but now all of a sudden we're like, oh, we're basically doing the same thing on the same obstacles. Might as well all just do it together. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like I've seen like porn stars and like True Mizus going down like on quads. Like
that's what I mean. They're doing the same foot positions. Yeah. So you're like, well, they're doing it on coping basically like we are. So yeah.
Yeah. Well,
so was that just a one-off with Mesmer, or did they say like they want you to start doing that for them for like future releases, or has that even been discussed yet? Like is there anything?
I keep up with Mark like pretty often on Instagram just from messaging.
Yeah.
And I just, from how easy and how well everything went, I was like, like if you need anything, like hit me up, because this is just fun. And, it's quality stuff too. like being able to like, I guess, help out someone that I like respect so much as like a company, or not someone, but as a company.
Yeah.
I just told him like, if you ever need anything, like, I'm here to help. So it's kind of just, yeah, I don't really know of any plans, like any future plans,
Okay.
but I'm always just kind of working on ideas, like in case something comes up, then I'll have something to like have to help not put myself into like a spin, like, where I overthink.
Yeah.
I'm not like I wouldn't say perfectionist. I don't really think I don't know. It's just silly. Like you get caught up, like, sometimes it's the first go that like looks the best on something, and I could be like a week out that I realize that.
Yeah. No,
So,
I think I know what you mean. Did they send you a pair of skates?
no, but since I
What?
haven't been on my game so much, like I've been trying. I rolled around for a while on some 909s,
Okay.
and I believe they're just a little too big. My friend had gave me a pair, and it wasn't quite comfortable. Like it wasn't like the Shadows that I
Right.
had skated for a while, and I still have a couple pairs of those. They're just the pieces, the parts are starting to age, and like they break pretty easily.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know, I would love to get a pair. I
I
just
mean, your artwork's on it. You've got to have a pair just for posterity, like just for
yeah.
keep.
Well, I don't know. They may be on like the first shipment as they've just been shipped out, like all the, I guess, international land here in the
Right.
States. I don't know. Maybe if they have enough pairs next, like I would love a pair. I think it's just on me for not asking.
Right. Okay. I
I
mean,
get kind of bashful.
yeah, you don't ask, you don't get, and you like literally your artwork is all over it. So
Well, I'll find a nice way to ask.
maybe, well, Billy watches this, so Billy might see this and be like, "Oh yeah, we've actually forgot to send Chase a pair," and then
Well,
could work out
because
that way.
yeah, I mean, I would like to skate that the throne. It's been, I guess I've only owned one pair of USDs myself, like way back in the day. I had my mom buy me a pair of the Dustin Latimer
Oh,
thrones,
okay.
like the gray ones he used in Elements 2
Yeah,
around that.
I remember the ones you mean. Yeah, with a like black shimmer plate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I've always been kind of like a nerd for the look of them. Like it just to me at the time, that was just like, it was the ideal kind of looking skate. And then as time went on, I guess probably because of Chris, like I got into shadows, and like he would just set me up with pairs. Like, I don't know. I did skate some rollerblade TRS. Those are pretty good.
Yeah, I remember you skating TRS, and you had dashes as well with like USD plates, didn't
Oh
you?
shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably
I love how I remember your setups better than you
no,
do.
no. Well, yeah, because I was like, oh man, actually, rollerblade, I did like those quite a bit. No, one of my favorite pairs were the McLeod with the USD sole plates, the Deshies. Those are awesome, just lightweight, and every trick worked just right. Like backslides were good, but then you could, like, you almost felt like you had a K2 backslide, but then you could torque if you wanted to a
Okay.
little bit more. I was terrible at torques and K2s growing up. And that's another pair. Well, I actually skated K2s for a bit. Yeah. Well,
Um,
no. What were you
so
saying?
yeah, so the first thing I saw you in was obviously the Black Fabric video. I'm guessing you know Lonnie from because Lonnie's from Texas originally, right?
Yeah, he's from Austin. Like
Right.
him, Jason Howard, and Chris Fleener were like the three big names, like kind of the amateur, like the cool kids when I was getting into skating.
Okay.
And Chris Fleener was from Houston, which is just about 5 hours from Dallas. And Austin's about 3-ish. So it's all kind of, there would be different events. So we'd be in Houston or Austin for like street comps, things like that. And so I met them when I was younger, but then Lonnie, I guess, kind of just, he hit me up, like, I think right after I graduated high school. So like in 2001. and then like sort of just asked if I wanted to be part of the Black Fabric team. Like I was the amateur rider for him, and that was just really exciting. I think that's what kept me in skating, honestly, to be like, well, here's something to do for like a few years, see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Like gives you some like motivation or some drive because you're like, oh, someone likes what I'm doing.
Yeah. It kind of like just kept it going. And then to get to travel, like even just within Texas, we did go to Atlanta, like I was saying, like Lonnie and I did while filming for the Black Fabric video. And it was just cool. I don't know. Lonnie's always been like a good friend. He's like brother level, like buddy as well. So
Okay. And then because it wasn't that long after that yeah, you had a section in Forever Now. So how did you meet Brandon Negrete?
I guess through my friend Mick Weldon.
Okay.
He was also one of my good skater friends growing up, like even through high school. And he lived out in a place called Grand Prairie, and that's not too far from Dallas as well.
Right.
And so he was friends with Negretti on AOL Instant Messenger. Like they would all chat.
That is going back. Okay.
And I can't remember his name, Negretti's name on AIM, but I think Mick went by Modest Mick. So it was always kind of funny. So we would hang out in his parents' computer room. There are 2 computers, and it was still exciting to be on the internet, like for anything. Like skate clips were like super exciting. I think we'll just hanging out with Mick. I'd be like, hey, who are you talking to? And be like, oh, these guys, California guys. I think Carl Sturgess was in the mix as well.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that would make sense.
So he was kind of networking with those guys back, I think, and that's before the video Us came out.
Yep.
And that was on VHS. So that was, like 2000, maybe 1999, around the time of. And so Negretti, he got footage before meeting, like before any of us had hung out. He got footage from Nick to use in that Us video. And I guess a couple years went by, or as time went by, I think it was like 1 year. He ended up coming down to the hoedown, or to one of the hoedowns, and he was hanging out with Farmer in one of the hotel rooms, and I guess had invited me to show him some footage, like some new footage, because he was talking about developing or getting started on Forever Now.
Right.
So went to the hotel, like showed him some footage. He's like, yeah, this is cool. It'd be more fun if you came out and like shot with me, like in my hometown. And so I ended up taking a Greyhound bus.
I was going to ask about this because I interviewed Brandon like years after it came out, and he said that he couldn't believe that you got a bus all the way from Texas to California to film for the video. And he was like, that's when I knew this kid was like serious about it and was going to be properly, involved in the project. How long does it take to get a bus from Dallas to California to LA?
It's pretty terrible. It's like 32 hours, like the fastest you can cut it.
That sounds truly awful.
Well, yeah, and I had drove to California like 2 summers before that with Mick Weldon, the same Mick I was talking about. And we took like a Honda Civic hatchback with no AC, drove middle of the summer. So we drive it, I guess we tried to split it up into 2 parts. They're like 12 and a half hours to New Mexico. And then from New Mexico, like 12 and a half to California. So we tried driving mostly at night, but shoot, I don't want to trail off too much. Oh yeah, the bus. Okay, so it takes 32 hours rather than like an average of 24 if you drive it yourself.
Also, weren't you quite young when you were doing this?
Yeah, and so it's kind of sketchy. Like I remember I brought Negretti like a painting, and I had like a spindle of CDs, because back then you listen to like everything on a Walkman or a Discman. So I had my spindle of CDs, a painting. I didn't have much money at the time. Like I think I actually borrowed money from Michael Stein. Like I guess $500, something like. It wasn't enough to really survive out there for very long. Like it was kind of funny. I don't know. It was it's something you'd do when you're younger and it wouldn't be that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I just remember my plan was just to skate. So yeah, it got kind of throughout the time there, just a lot of people helped me out basically by letting me like crash on their couches. So I met a lot of people in the skating community, and it was really exciting. Like I think at one point, like we'd go over to like Sayer Danforth's house.
Yeah, I know, sir. Yeah, from Heat Wheels. Yeah.
And so that was exciting. I was like, wow, you're like a character. This is kind of like, I try not to geek out, but I was constantly geeking out and just being like the awkward, quiet guy, like kid in the corner. But everyone was really cool. And I ended up staying like with Feinberg and Campbell at their not hotel, but at their apartment when they were, I guess, still filming like the rest of Bang.
Right. Okay.
And that's again where I like buddied up with like Farmer. He would buy me a beer, I don't know, or we get tacos. I would help someone like cheat at poker. Well, yeah, I don't know. Poker was like a big thing, and I didn't have any money or know how to play really. So it was just kind of like, it was just silly. I remember that. But yeah, I guess I ended up taking the Greyhound twice, but the second time I took it, I had a credit card, and that's when I went out to film for Road to Nowhere. So that was a different experience. It was still shitty to like sit there. The seats aren't very comfortable, or they weren't then on the Greyhound.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely, I kind of blocked that out of my memory. Because yeah, that's just pure boredom. I did smoke cigarettes at the time, so yeah, I remember some people are trying to find ways to smoke, like to create some filter thing with the water bottle. I don't know. It's weird.
Right.
Like, yeah.
I would have thought they would just have snuck off to the Greyhound buses have toilets on them. People usually just sneak off to the toilet and try and like blow the smoke through the filter or whatever. Yeah.
I'm remembering now the smell of the Greyhound. It smells like, it's like there's a urinal, of course, just like at the back of the bus. Yeah. So that's interesting. You meet a lot of nice people, a lot of like strange people, but mostly they're just for economic reasons doing the same.
Yeah.
Kind of method.
I kind of had the impression that you just went out to visit for like, I don't know, a week or two to film, but it sounds like when you went out there, you were out there for quite a while.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. That's why I didn't bring enough money the first time at all. But it was just like, I love California, like the weather, the spots. Like I was still like, I would geek out daily. Like we would just drive by a spot and I would like light up and get like super excited. Like not even to skate it, but it was just like going on like a tour.
Yeah, it's like skate tourism. You're like, oh my God, I've seen that from that video. Or you can even name the trick that's been done on it. Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Yeah. When you would go up to certain spots, you're like, how the fuck did anyone do anything on that? Like you get it sort of tests you, and then you might find yourself at a spot and you come up with something, or you do something that I guess kind of catches someone else off guard.
Right.
So it's like a cool balance, and like just the way that everyone's so just down, and like everyone is so cool and just about going out to like skate just for skating's sake. Like a lot of the time we would just at night hit up like a ledge spot, and I would just meet multiple random new people that way. Like it wouldn't even be like a filming sort of endeavor. It would just be like a hangout.
Yeah.
And there's, sorry.
Yeah. The way Brandon made videos always made them look just a lot more natural than anything else was happening. Like at the time, rollerblading was taking itself very seriously. People were putting out very serious video parts with like, really big stunts. You could get really hurt. And then Brandon made videos that just seemed a lot more relaxed and freestyle, and like, oh, we'll just go out and I'll just film everything that happens. And if we get stuff, great. But there was a lot of B-roll, and there was a lot of like, you felt like you knew the people that you were watching because he included so much stuff other than just their skating.
Well, yeah, like I guess we were always trying to be to some level like cool guys, like not cool guys, but I don't know, like to shit. Just to like try to be cool, I guess, but not be cool. Like we all knew that we were nerds, but music was a big deal. It was like kind of a badge. Like if you, it's like the more knowledge of music, which Negretti was like pretty much like a library of like every time we got in the car, because I guess iPods were around. So that was exciting. I think that they were.
Yeah, they were like they'd have been relatively new, but they would have been around, yeah.
Cool, because Negretti like always had like it seemed like a song would kind of rule the day of the session. Like he'd be like, "Oh shit, we got to hear this one," and it would just be a reason to smoke a cigarette and like relax. But then I don't know, he would always kind of like hype you up somehow.
Right.
Like he got me to do like certain tricks on certain spots that I didn't even want to really at first.
Okay.
And it wasn't like a dare sort of thing, like an ego like issue. It's like he would just sort of kind of get you to realize like you could do it, and then he would maybe be like, hey, but try it like that, like, you know, just like a little just movement, a difference of like the way you approach it. Or he would see you do something without even realizing that you did it, like some just I guess approach, like some style. I don't know, it's just weird. It's like things you wouldn't really notice or even think about, he would highlight. And it seems like he could just do that with like everyone. It was cool.
Yeah, I know what you mean. When that video came out, it absolutely blew me away because it was unlike any other skate video I'd ever seen. And I remember showing friends that didn't skate. Like I was in university at the time, and you know, you'd be sitting around getting drunk or getting stoned or whatever. And I'd be like, "Oh, let's put this on." And everyone would normally be like, "No, don't put on one of your rollerblading videos. No one wants to see that shit." And then I put that on, and half the girls in the room instantly like perked up and went, "Oh, those don't look like rollerbladers. Those just look like those look like little guys in indie bands that just happen to be wearing rollerblades." I was like, exactly. Like there is no other blading video like this right now. And then all the music that kind of went along with it, and just the way it was portrayed with like all the purples and stuff like that, and like just the kind of very distinctive style. And loads of them were like, "Oh, I'd rather watch this than any of your other ones." Like these are, and compared to the other skating that was going on at the time, it could be argued that it wasn't as big, or there weren't as many stunts or whatever, or it wasn't as technical, but that wasn't really what the video was trying to convey. So
no, it was kind of like you could put it on if you didn't even know what was going on. Like the soundtrack of it all was just fun. I mean, well, yeah. As far as like the other guys, I was just intimidated because I thought they all looked and dressed like super cool.
Right.
And I was just kind of like, there were a few days Negretti was like, hey, like it's going to look funny if you keep having the same shirt on. Because that was another thing. I didn't really bring much clothes.
Yeah.
I ended up having to like tape up my pants with.
I remember that was one thing that stuck out in my head. Like you always had like electrical tape on your jeans and stuff like that. Yeah.
And looking back, I'm like, oh, that wasn't like to try to look cool in any way. Like that was just awkward
to stop them from falling apart.
It really worked. I mean, it created like as you would slide out and then add like by the end of the trip, they were definitely durable, but it was strange to say because
that's so
that
funny.
Was well, and then Negretti would give me like a jacket or like a shirt to wear. And so I don't know, it's kind of funny. Some shirts, they all looked about right. It's just some like I felt like I don't know. I would be more like worried about how the shirt looked because I thought it was like super cool that I was wearing like his Paul Frank fucking something or other shirt or like a members only jacket.
Right.
I didn't want to like fall at all, like to fuck it up.
Yeah, you're like, if I bail here and tear his jacket, is he gonna start shouting at me? Like,
it's like shit. We were cool, but it was still also building a friendship at the time.
Yeah.
So that was another kind of interesting thing, like to go from being like mostly an introvert to just sort of being thrown out there.
Yeah.
It was cool. I don't know. Kind of, I guess at the time being younger too, it helped build up like kind of confidence, like social. I wasn't sure. Can you hear that car alarm that's going off outside?
No.
Good. Okay. It's been going for a while and I was like, I don't want to just ignore that, but
That's fine.
I
So
ignore it.
when the video came out, were you surprised by how it turned out? Because that video wasn't like anything else that was coming out at the time.
I thought it was just cool. I have it somewhere. Actually, I went on eBay and I found an issue of Daily Bread, the amateur issue that I had like a little feature in.
Right.
The cool thing is like the last page is it's a print ad of Forever Now that Sayer drew up.
Oh yeah,
And
I remember it. Yeah.
yeah, and I was just kind of it was just exciting to see, mostly like that just seemed like super cool that that was in Daily Bread, because that was like such like a super important like book at the time.
Yeah. I always kind of wonder how they managed to do that, because Daily Bread adverts, like print adverts, were really expensive. Like
Yeah.
for like a full page advert, you were talking like at least $1,000. And sometimes some of the ads you were like, how did they get away with that? But then I later spoke to Angie Walton and she said loads of people ended up not actually paying for ads, or they would agree to pay for ads and then never follow through.
Be like, well, no. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, because it seemed like corporate sponsored thing. I mean, there would be like a Solomon page on almost
Yeah.
every like back of the issue, and that made sense because they're like Solomon. But yeah, I see what you mean now. Yeah, okay. Because some ads you
Like did they have an agreement, or
yeah.
maybe Brandon was like, oh, I'll contribute footage to one of your videos, or I don't know.
Well, yeah, or do like, yeah, definitely. Maybe he would do like some shooting for him. I don't know. That is kind of cool though. But that
Yeah.
to me, it seemed like very legitimate at the time. So I was just kind of like, wow, okay. It seemed like a buddy video, like something that you would make with your friends. But then there was like a little bit more to it. Like, and I just figured that's because it was, from someone that wasn't just like part of my crew, like growing up with. So it was very exciting to be kind of on the outside to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of seemed like that was, well, as far as I was concerned, the video that put Negretti on the map. And like a lot of people, he then developed like that style in later videos, and a lot of people copied it. And it was kind of considered responsible for like that kind of rocker movement in blading, and especially a lot of like the fashion sense in it, because like it had Jeremy Beitel in it that no one had heard of before the video. And
Oh yeah.
then everyone was like, oh, that's the guy that designs the Casper clothes. And people didn't even realize he skated. And then they saw clips of him like
Killing it.
skating pretty well. Yeah. And then Casper obviously became this like cult movement in blading where like Ollie Short and everyone was wearing it. So yeah, it was just kind of crazy how it all took off from that video, basically.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think. Yeah, because back at the time, it was funny to be so intimidated by people that had sections in the same video. So like, I was scared to meet them like in person. Like, say when I met Jeremy the first time, I was kind of like, I don't know, like geeking out again. Like, just like, wow, that there's like, he does Caspa and like, well, he's fucking like crazy good. I don't know. It was, yeah, it was pretty cool. I like that, like the whole video.
Plus, it must have been kind of wild being in was that your first time in California when you were filming for that video?
No, I'd gone just with my friend Mick
Just in
to
the
like San
road trip the year
Diego.
before. Okay, right.
So, and I guess that was actually when I was 18. So the summer of 2001.
Right.
Yeah. So I got to hang out with, I don't know if you remember a company called Project Portman.
Yes, Brandon Ballows. Yeah, Baldos,
Yeah.
Baldos.
Aldous.
Baldos.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
And then there was skater Mike Leaf.
Oh yeah, I remember Mike Lee from San Diego. Yeah, he used to be on USD.
Yeah, and I think his friend was nicknamed Ball Slap. I think it was Scott Ladinsky. He had a section in Carl Sturgess' video film, I think it was.
Okay.
Or maybe, I don't know if it was not film. It might have been Demo Day or Demoed. Anyhow, I mean, I got to hang out with
I think it was film. It definitely wasn't demo day. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense because that was like early Deshies. But yeah, Mike Leaf, actually, he was trying to convert me into wearing baggier clothes at the time. And
Yeah.
it's funny to look back, like the pants that I was wearing, I guess this was around the time I filmed a little bit for Yawn, the film Trash.
Oh yeah.
I had like a bonus feature section in that. And looking back at the clothes I was wearing, they seemed baggy enough. Although at the time it's kind of funny, like I guess they're considered tight clothes. And then clothing ended up getting like super too tight. I remember that it got a little like Motley Crue-ish kind of.
Yeah, it was just rebelling against what was happening before it. So obviously everyone was wearing the huge sweatpants and stuff like that, and a group of people obviously came along and went, "No, we're going the very opposite of this. We're going the opposite direction."
Well, in high school though, I remember I was influenced by Farmer, and so yeah, I had some sweatpants, some cargo like sweatpants. I think from like Ross or the Burlington Coat Factory, something, I don't know, like triple XL.
Okay.
I just ended up dropping that before, I don't know, by the end of high school. I think I was trying to be more edgy looking, like rocker, even though I looked very like calm, very like very normal, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. So obviously you're out in California. You've always kind of given off the impression of being quite like a quiet guy. So what was it like being out there? Because you said that you were, you stayed with Feinberg and Brandon Campbell. They're two very big personalities. And not only are they big, they're also kind of quite boisterous. Like, they're known for like getting wasted and being loud and, not afraid to like get into wrestling matches and stuff like that. I'm just kind of curious, like how you would even interact in that kind of situation. Like, were you just sitting there observing it, or like what was going on?
Mostly observing, but also like Farmer would help me out like with like a 32 beer, like a night, or it was, I forget, like there are certain ways I made money, nothing like illegal or like strange, but I just remember being just kind of like in the corner, like just being able to observe. Like I didn't get bullied or messed with for being the quiet kid.
Right. Okay.
Which, yeah, it was strange. I don't know. I probably should have been like, they weren't like mean people though. They were funny, but yeah. You get a few drinks in you and definitely like kind of like wrestling or like, exchanging punches. So I remember as time went on, exchanging punches, that was like a thing to do when you got drunk. Like after a session, like I remember Micah Yeager and I like ended up getting into like a punch, like a friendly, like let's hit each other in the jaw. Like let's see how hard we can without knocking each other out. Okay. And it just seemed like a good idea. It was like, okay, yeah.
That can go from being a bit of fun to getting real very quick.
Yeah, and I was afraid of at the time the Rejects like crew.
Yeah,
they were all like really cool, and I thought they were like just doing some of the coolest skating out there. But they scared me for like a hangout afterwards. Like I ended up getting to hang out with them though at like different hotels, like for different events.
Yeah,
and then ended up in a room with like Charles Dunkel and like some of the Bama guys one night, and he was just really cool and chill and like very polite to me, and like, I think that they made a point that I shouldn't have got the Ender section in Forever Now. Like that should have been Micah. And so there was like a little like brief moment of like, oh fuck. And they're like, no, but you did good. It was cool. But should have been Micah. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Should have been Micah. Like, yeah, it was just kind of, yeah.
Just play along and agree, and hopefully things will pan out.
But they were all so cool. So it was kind of, I don't know. It's just nice. Like the community, like getting to meet people, that you could otherwise like be afraid of.
Even in that situation, I can't even imagine Farmer being particularly up for that kind of like atmosphere with like Feinberg and Brandt, because I've met Farmer before. Like he's pretty quiet as well. Like he's not like a loud like rager party guy.
Oh no, he's always been, like, because I took it as like a kid, if someone was like intense with their skating, that they would be like intense people. And then I even like meeting like Happy, like after, he's like insanely like intense with skating, and like on some other level, but he's so quiet and like so calm and so cool, very sweet. Like Farmer was the same way, but he was definitely more into like jokes, like always like with the inside jokes.
Right.
Like him and Campbell would always have, I don't know, just anything could become like some like daily, like multiple times a day you would hear it mentioned, and it would just like crack them up. I think poker played like a big part in everyone like getting together at the end of the day, because skating would, you know, be easy to like hang out all day, go out and get clips.
Yeah.
You might even like break off and go with like just a couple people that session similar things. But then yeah, it was kind of like a collective like hangout over like poker and like cheap beer, like being young. Smoking like shitty cigarettes too.
Yeah.
Because I think Farmer at the time smoked, but had made a bet with V3 in San Francisco that he wouldn't buy a pack. Something like if he did find out, like if he found out that he had bought a pack himself or a carton, there was some pay up that he had, like he would have lost a bet. So he stuck to that. So yeah, we would get some pretty random like cheap cigarettes and bum cigarettes quite a bit, I guess.
That's quite funny because I met the first time I met Farmer was he was in Dublin for a skate competition. I can't remember what, Real Street Dublin or whatever, and we're all driving around in like an old school double decker bus, and there was Farmer, Stockwell, and Don Bambrick was there as well because it was when Shadow and USD, Shadow and Salomon were kind of like merging, or like
Yeah, they had
their riders were touring together because Salomon obviously made the Shadow skates. But it was quite funny that you mentioned that because the entire night, I noticed that Farmer smoked the entire night but didn't ever buy cigarettes, and he always just got Don to give him a free cigarette like the entire night. And at one point I was like, if you're smoking all of these cigarettes, just go and get your own. Like, I'm surprised Don just didn't lose his shit and was like, why am I giving you all my cigarettes? Okay.
Yeah, cool. Because yeah, it came up and I didn't want to make Chris sound like a bum, but yeah, there was like definite understood, like, I don't know about how high the stakes were, but there was like a bet, some solid thing with the V3. So
okay. So you mentioned like when you were driving around and you were with those guys and you'd see spots from videos and stuff and geek out. But it's quite interesting because whenever I think of your sections, I always think of you skating spots that I didn't remember seeing anyone else skating. You skated like a lot of flat ground stuff. Like you were really into like doing toe rolls and pivots and like finding just interesting objects to do that on. So like you were obviously like a massive fan of blading because, you know, you've talked about having all these kind of like starstruck moments with seeing other skaters. But what skaters influenced, obviously apart, you mentioned Farmer, but what other skaters, because the type of skating you did, there was very, very few people doing that type of skating at the time. It was very much against what was happening.
Yeah, I remember big influences, I guess, like Micah Yeager.
Okay, yeah.
Being from Texas as well. He was from Port Lavaca. It's pretty far down, or pretty far from here, from Dallas. But Michael Stein and I we drove there to Corpus Christi because he was dating a girl named Selena at the time, and we actually stayed at Corpus at her place. And I got to see Micah skate around the time of Still This Video. Or okay, no, his rejects.
Maybe Closer? Are you thinking of Razor's Closer? Yeah, I'm sure he had quite a bit of footage in that.
Well, no, I guess we were watching the rejects that just came out.
Right, okay.
The time that we visited, like that was in stores like the weekend that we visited. So getting to see his skating progress like further and further, and then seeing what he was doing in person, we ended up having like a lot of fun at a spot, kind of not even like going over to the main reason that we were there, like the main ledge or something. Like we would it's almost like it would be like kind of like jazz, like playing off. Like he would do something and I would see it, and then I would just kind of focus on, I don't know, it's it just seemed like there was so much more to it. Like if you went to the skate park and you weren't feeling it, if you went to like a lot of the times drop rails and like hammer clips were like the only thing the kids around me wanted to skate.
Yeah.
And so I'd end up finding myself in like a parking lot, like with a curb maybe or some shit like that, or like a manual pad. And I don't know, just it became just more fun to play with that. And instead of trying to like topsoil or back royale like some scary ass drop rail.
Yeah, and
But
get risk getting broken off with literally one wrong attempt. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean the thing was that there are so many of those spots being like skated that from time to time you'd come across like a perfect one. And that's how I got kind of comfortable with like bigger rails, things like that. So yeah, I don't know. Micah was an influence. Charles Dunkel was like a big influence because he would do
I can see
stunt
that. Yeah.
like he would do, yeah, like scary big things. But then at the same time, he'd have a few more like just real tech, like flatland type stuff. And Eric Burke, the whole Peld crew, I guess, from way back.
I was wondering if Peld had any kind of impact. It seemed like it might. Okay.
Well, yeah, because they, I guess I was in high school. I didn't really know what to be an artist was. I was just like, wow, these guys are like artists. Like they just have this way about them. And they didn't seem so edgy. But then their Battle My Crew section, like in VG12.
Yeah.
That was pretty intense. So you get into like Nick Riggle. Actually, Nick Riggle was the early influence because my first VG was VG6.
Right. Okay.
And also a lot of the Australian skaters. Like I really like Dion Anthony.
All right.
Yeah, like there was just something about like, well, pretty much all the Australian skaters, and I know that comes from like they would just skate like there was just something to it. Like they could kill those little bowls. Like I think it was the Manly Bowl. They could just skate like little spots, but then you would see like Tim Ward doing like street level or not street level, but doing like mini ramp kind of tricks on a vert ramp. Like it was crazy. Like I think he would do like 360 topsoil.
Yeah, he used to do like weirdly technical tricks on vert ramps, and he'd do them in competition runs, and you're like, surely it's safer just to do a spin than to go for like, he would go for like, torque slides and like really like technical topside grinds, and you're like, okay.
So that kind of people like him, skaters like him. And then again, I guess Dion Anthony was like such a big influence because I thought he like looked cool as well. Like he just kind of cruised around Eisenberg's. I forget what hoedown it was because I pretty much went to every hoedown, like from before I could even like skate the box in the back like very well. Like I was just like kind of what would you call it, like a grommet?
I mean, everyone's a grommet at some point.
So I would it was like you would be there the whole week, like as soon as you could get out of school, get a ride down there. Cause like the skaters were there for like a week before, sometimes a week after. Mm-hmm. And they would just kind of always be at their sessioning. Like my buddy Barrett lived really close to Eisenberg's. And one night, like I think it was the Friday before the competition, we stayed at his house and he had footage of Frankie Morales and like Eric Shrine and just like all these people. Like he had like filmed a mini section of Frankie Morales just from him sessioning the rail in the back.
Right. Okay.
It was like crazy because at the time, True Fish Brains, I guess, were kind of something I'd see because of like Shane Scour. Like he was a Dallas local. And he could somehow do like shit on rails like 2 years before I was seeing it like widely done. But Frankie Morales is doing like 450 Royale and shit like that, like on the rail. And that was just like mind blowing.
Yeah, that must have been quite an eye-opening experience for being a kid because you're basically at a skate park that's run by the family of one of the most iconic skaters of all time.
Yeah.
You're being there for like, you're saying it yourself, like a week before or a week after an event, and all the biggest names in blading from around the world are basically there, and you, if you have the confidence, have the opportunity to like either skate alongside them or talk to them or grom out on them or pester them or do whatever, depending on what age you are at the time. And you basically have the opportunity to actually have like personal interactions with these people, as opposed to just going to like a contest and sitting in the stands and watching them. You can actually, you know, be in their space.
Yeah. And see, I mean, you could go right after them if you wanted to be like a goofy kid. And I found myself trying like a trick after Feinberg like a long, long time ago. Like I think it was when Solomon's were still like probably around VG9 or VG10. So I think he had a section of VG9, back to basic.
Yeah, back to basics. I can't remember. Yeah, might have been VG9. I know the one you mean though. Yeah.
But yeah, he was like insane. Like to see him skate like a park, and I remember him doing like something on like a part of like Eisenberg's ledge box, and I found myself, I don't know why, like so awkward. I tried the same trick like right after him, and I got kind of laughed at, but I wasn't, you know, discouraged entirely. So it was something else. It was just like, wow, like, okay, I've now seen one of those tricks from a video, like in front, like I've seen how he did it. I don't know how the fuck he did it though. So it was just cool to see. It was almost like just having it like proven in front of you, like something is possible. And then one of your friends would like get that trick. Like, I don't know. I think my friend Chris Burge at the time, he was like the one that was progressing above all of us. Like he got True Mizu on the down ledge first. And we're all like, I think we rewatched that clip like 1,000 times that night because everything was like on mini DV, like little handheld camcorders.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't want to trail off again. Sorry.
Yeah. So like you were talking about basically how you'd get to a spot and you just end up sessioning a completely different part of it. Was like, so like I said, that was very uncommon at the time. And weirdly now that has become like such a massive part of skating, like a kind of freestyle aspect or making something out of nothing or making the best of like flat ground or ground in between obstacles, as opposed to just thinking about, oh, I need to grind this and I need to gap off this or I need to jump these set of stairs. There's a huge emphasis on making it your own or, you know, adding your own personality to it. When you were doing it at that time, because so few people were doing it, did you ever get any like backlash from your friends that you skated with? Were they not like, what the hell are you doing that for? Why aren't you coming over and skating this with us?
No, it was, I don't know. Everyone was honestly pretty cool. Like there would be the younger kids that we would kind of bring along with us to the sessions, like the generation, like year behind us, I guess. Like we started to bring like Fritz was like one of the first kids. We'd be like, hey, like, you want to go street skate with us like after the Eisenberg session? And he'd be like, yeah, sure. Like, you know, we get like parents' permission if we ever needed, whatever the heck. Like we weren't that much older. But some of the younger kids, they would not geek out. They would kind of make fun of you if you weren't doing like the like trick of the month or trick of the moment. Yeah. Like from the most recent video, like if you weren't going for that, then it would be like, man, like what is your deal? Or like your pants are again, like why are you wearing those? Like what is this? Like, yeah, what's the point of this? And it's like, cause you're at that age, like kind of self-discovery is like a big thing. Like you're, I don't know, just dealing with like understanding what fashion is, like how it represents you maybe. And then skating like trick wise, but like the trick vocabulary, it's like, I guess there was like a big push to like go pro as a kid.
Okay.
Not like for me, but I mean, that was just like a thing. It was like, you saw it happen like at the skate park.
Well, yeah, like, oh, yeah. Like the generation, well, maybe the generation before you, people were seeing them getting money and having cars and stuff like that. And people were like, oh, this is something we can strive towards.
Yeah, so, like Levi's and the Gap were sponsoring people. And so it's like, oh shit, okay, this is, and then you would see people like come up, like Shane Scour got on Solomon, I guess, and then Senate.
And ended up moving to California, yeah.
Yeah, and that was like, wow, that was like firsthand. Like he wasn't like a buddy of mine, Like, well, I wasn't, I guess, cool enough to like hang out with like him and his friends. Entire like not all the time, but slowly like it became that like his friends or my friends and like all that. But I think he was getting kind of out of the skate scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still I don't know, to see that happen. And then also just from the get-go, like knowing that Arlo was like one of the like founders.
That's what I mean. You've got a guy there that basically, well, he didn't start it, but like as in he was one of the early key figures of it, and he's right there on your doorstep, and he's like,
Yeah.
he's just basically like within touching distance, essentially.
Well, because whenever I worked at Starbucks, and I said like Chris, by the time like Chris lived here, he would do day camp like at the skate camp, and I would bring coffee in the mornings to like Arlo's stepdad, this guy Essie, and Essie was like super cool, and the fact that he was like related to Arlo like made him like, just by that fact, it's like, wow, this guy's cool. Like he's, it's Arlo's stepdad. Like holy shit. And then like Arlo's sister worked there for a bit.
Right.
And his mom would be there from time to time. So it was kind of cool. Like he would be there too as well. So like him being so like just approachable and just positive and nice as a person, like it really, yeah, it just kind of tore down the whole, like, you would put up like, I don't know, like the way you look at like actors or like musicians.
There's no disconnect because there's no boundary between you and that person. Like you can literally find yourself in the same room as them and have the opportunity to talk to them. Where as opposed to, you might never see your favorite actor from a film, but you can see your favorite skater. So
yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess that was just pretty cool. And like even like a random thing from Hoax 2, which is like the first main video that I saw, like, well, that I've like watched over and over with my friends. There was like a candy dispenser that they stole and they named it Tom Servo.
I remember this because it was quite a famous like thing, and they kept it in the park. Is that right?
Yeah, it was at the front door of the skate park. Like right when you walk in, it's just like this thing that I've just spent like, I don't know. It seemed like Hoax was part of my childhood, or Hoax 2 as well. Well, Hoax 1 was as well, because my friend got Hoax 1 and 2 and 3, I think, in like a combo pack.
Okay.
So Hoax 3 skating, I guess I kind of stayed. I didn't progress like with the sport for like the first year that I skated. I was like back in like Hoax 2 times when VG7 was being shot.
You were too busy enjoying the older stuff. Yeah. Okay.
But it was so crazy because then you would go to ESPN2 on like your television, and you would find ASA competitions. And around that time, VG7 was being filmed. So skating was like, by the time, I don't know, it was kind of funny like to have it revealed to me twice in a way, like to be like, oh, skating's at this point. Because once Eisenberg's opened, I started going there like every weekend. And I would see like the progression that had occurred, I guess, from Hoax 2 to then.
And that's a massive jump, because even every time they brought out a new VG, like me and my friends would try and learn the tricks in the VG that we'd just seen, and then a new one would come out and we'd be like, whoa, what? Like this is taking such a massive leap from what we've just seen.
Yeah, like trying to think. My friend, in between that, there was like kind of a part of high school that I didn't skate quite as much, but I ended up hanging out with a friend, like a couple of friends that were really into it. And they kind of took me under their wing and invited me over to stay the night, like to have a hangout, like slider bar session before we went to Eisenberg's. And so that was around 9th grade. Shit. Just trying to think. MDR though, I watched My Daily Routine, the Brian Bell. It was like T-Bone TV 1, and I think Rawlinson made T-Bone TV 2.
Yeah, High Rollers. Yeah,
the Rollers, and then Brian Bell made T-Bone TV 3, which is Making Dreams Reality. I don't know. I was really drawn to those skaters though. Like they ended up, they would always do. I know there's like breakdancing and graffiti involved in the videos, but they skated things a little bit differently than like some of the more stunny people. I know Brian Bell though could do like some pretty big.
Brian Bell could do most things, but yeah,
He was crazy. Like he was like,
yeah,
yeah, wow, he was a character for sure. Like, I mean, some of the air that he would get. I'm just thinking of this natural like 540 over a fence.
yeah. He really liked doing big gaps, like, and
Yeah.
he did them well. Yeah,
And there was just like a whole, I don't know, like a vibe or like a whole like mood to those videos. Like it just seemed cool. I don't know.
yeah. His videos always seemed really just grimy and dirty, and the kind of thing that you wouldn't want your parents to catch you watching. Like it was
Yeah,
it
that's the
was the kind of
thing.
thing you'd watch in your room and be like, if my mom comes in, she's gonna kick off.
Yeah, because like we would watch that. I think it was kind of Scott was my friend Scott Quinn. We go to his place and like it was, yeah, it felt like it was almost like we were not doing something wrong, but like you're definitely a little bit more like edgy as
Yeah,
like a kid rather than going to like play soccer. You're like, I know how to graffiti and I'm gonna wax this curb. It's not gonna look good. And yeah, we're just doing that because it feels good. Like I guess the disrespect, like you, I don't know, you almost like adopt like a small bit of like thug to you or like tough guy.
yeah. You get a kind of like a little bit of like a delinquent mentality. You're just like, I don't care. I'm just gonna do what I want. You can't like, yeah,
And it definitely helped kind of give you like a shield for the awkwardness of like high school. Cause like the only people that we're like the only three kids I think that really skated at what was the North Campus of my high school in ninth grade. And so it was like I pretty much, yeah, anyone that I thought was cool was like from a magazine or a video. So it helped me not worry about like the peer pressures of like high school in general,
yeah.
even down to like what we would wear. We would get made fun of for, I think, lanyards. They weren't exactly cool,
I
but
mean,
we all,
they're dumb. Like in
yeah,
retrospect, everyone had one. Lanyards are dumb
yeah,
and they serve no purpose. They don't help. They don't help you keep hold of your
no,
keys. They just
someone
get in
could
the
steal
way.
your keys
You,
like that.
yeah, actually, it makes it easier for pickpockets because they're like, all his shit's in that pocket, right?
Yeah. And the likelihood of it catching on something, if you're the skate park, it would get shredded by like, if you fucking miss a coping grind and you slide on it, it's got, yeah, like pieces of like wood, like splinters in it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
reason, things like that. Puffing up your shoes, like making your shoes like huge. That was kind of like skateboarders knew what we were doing. And also they were curious as to why. Like if they saw us wearing like skateboard shoes, but with like rollerblading shirts, they're like, what the fuck's this? Like, because I remember having a pair of DCs and getting asked a lot like why I had them.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense because they're just annoyed that we stole so much from their culture, and then yeah,
Yeah,
we're essentially dressing like them, but we're not skateboarders, so it makes sense.
because skateboarding was kind of blowing up like more and more. Like my friends, they were still cool though. Like they would not let me, but we would all hang out on the weekends. Like before, it was like a weekend every weekend kind of thing to go to Eisenberg's, and I would watch like 411s. And I was impressed like skateboarding for just the music they used. Like it seemed, it felt like kind of cool watching a 411 for some reason. Like
Okay.
I guess they had kind of started to master like getting the culture across. Like it
Well,
was a
yeah,
pretty,
yeah. They've been making videos for a lot longer on rollerblading, so they had a much greater sense of, I don't know, either who they were or the image they wanted to project, as opposed to
yeah,
us who are still, as a
like
sport, kind of fumbling our way through it.
well, watching people though, like just set up like cool picnic tables, like Rodney Mullen or like Daewon Song, stuff like that. That was kind of something I couldn't do on a skateboard. Like I would try playing around like with my friends' skateboards and rollerblading. It worked. Like whenever I'd try to go to do like some weird thing, like I didn't know what a toe roll was really. But if I wanted to like just kind of do something silly or like to experiment with like spinning or like getting up on something and then dropping off and seeing like what kind of impact I could take.
Yeah.
Yeah, rollerblading, it just clicked. Like I think just like the stance or the like position of your body, it made more sense.
No,
Like,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, skateboarding didn't seem right for me. Like it would almost be like riding a bicycle sideways or something. Like that made no sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I do think it's quite, there's a really interesting phrase you used where you were like, rollerblading and the identity that it gave you felt like a shield in high school against, because that's what every teenager goes through, like basically trying to find yourself, identify who you are or what you like, or trying to portray the image of you that you imagine in your mind or that you see in the mirror. And I do think even if rollerblading wasn't cool, I lived in a small town. I had like 4 friends who rollerbladed. They were all in my school. No one else did it, and they all thought it was the lamest, like weakest thing
Yeah.
ever. But that actually didn't bother me because I identified as that person, and I was like, I don't mind
Like
if you
you
don't
guys,
like me for doing this, because like if anything, that just strengthens my belief that what I'm doing is good because I'm doing it in spite of you not liking it. So like I can totally resonate with what you're saying there when you're like, oh, it's like a shield, it's like a thing you can use to protect yourself from the society of high school or the politics of high school, because that is what it felt like for me.
well, yeah, and like with music too. I don't know if you're a big fan, but like any skate video, like I found myself listening to Metallica after I didn't quite like them because of Dustin Latimer and Coup d'etat.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of odd not to pick on Metallica, but
Oh no, but it's like there's so many bands or artists that you would never have, you might not have ever even heard because they won't appear on the radio. Like there's loads that just aren't in the charts or whatever. And then you see it in a music video and you attach it to someone that you are a fan of, and all of a sudden you're deep diving trying to find every piece of music they've ever created, and you're like,
yeah, like oh, well, I don't want to cut you off. It just reminded me of my sister at one point was like, I started going through her CDs because of, I think it was Broke Down Palace, like some Claire Danes movie from the late 90s, had this Sarah McLachlan song. And
okay,
then they ended up using that in Forest Fire, like the intro song for Forest Fire. And like it just seemed like after that, like these people were making edits like with that kind of emotional, like way off that kind of music. Like it was
yeah,
Sarah McLachlan, I believe. More Chiba from, what was it, Millennium, the intro section of that video.
yeah. They also
My
had, or Chibo were also in a TG Weber section in
oh yeah,
espionage or something like that. Some TJ Weber had a short section, and they used Morchipa as well for that. I do remember that.
I'm trying to think now. Oh shoot, was it Day of the Rope?
It might
Holy
have been actually it was Day of the Rope because he was skating. I'm sure he was skating like the Senate mini ramp in it. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. Oh, and that. Oh,
Tape
sorry.
Loop,
Just
that was it. It was the Morchipa song was Tape Loop.
man, I feel like watching that section because he did some cool like natural to switch or switch to natural like cess slides
Yes,
and those
he was a
cool
big fan of cess slides. Yeah, I do remember that.
TJ Weber. Okay, he was honestly like a big influence as well. Like just being, he seemed just very fluid. Like that described him like just very, like he just flowed like around, kind of like Julio at the time.
Yeah,
Like
TJ
forever
Weber,
actually.
very good style, and yeah, Julio was like a different. Julio had a more kind of awkward stance, but again, he had very good style.
Yeah, it's just like you just wanted to like, and they could do like a long line, and it was just like cool to see them like tie it together. Um, yeah, lines. I guess lines are always exciting. Just like people that could consistently pull off trick after trick, like Latimer. Well, okay, Latimer did everything just amazingly,
I
but
mean, yeah, that is true. But I do know what you mean because I always differentiated that from skateboarding because I had quite a few friends that were into skateboarding, and I'd watch it and I'd be like, these are all just single tricks. These are all just like
yeah,
clip, 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 clip. And then when rollerblading like kind of died off, and they were like, oh, it's because there's no flow to rollerblading. And I was like, but we can do like five. Like I'm not pro, and I can do five or six
yeah.
tricks in a line, easy. And I was like, I've never seen a skateboarder land more than two in real life, like back to back. Never.
No, that. like skateboarding seemed even like more like just a mystery to me, because I would watch the videos and they do some crazy shit, but then like you would go and watch your friends try like some.
Why is this taking you 50 attempts for every trick?
What are these freak people out in California that are able to do this shit? Like, what is like? I saw such a difference in like it seemed like my rollerblading friends were progressing to our sport a little bit faster, like able to pick up the tricks. And I know like some tricks were designed with a little bit more safety involved, like a sidewalk. Like you're pretty on there, like with the old school.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like I mean that's kind of comforting. But then I like to see like a backslide or something like that. That didn't make any sense to me until I like got a pair of K2s.
With the soft backslide plate that you can basically just sit on, and no matter how far back you lean, you're not slipping off.
And I still have actually a pair, because they ended up breaking so often, like the K2 backyards or the fatty pros, that if you took them back to this place in my town, it was Oshman's Sporting Goods.
Right.
You could mail them out, like get a new pair. It would be like an exchange thing. So I actually have an old pair of backyards that I had like exchanged for like right before I think I got a pair of Dirks.
All right.
Or
okay.
Maybe some Majestic 12s. I forget. I think I skated those before Dirks, but yeah, I remember that super slow backslide plate was like amazing though.
Yep. That's new skates are terrifying to do backslides in when you think back and stuff like that. When you think back on skates that didn't have backslide plates and how easy it was to control them, and now you have to be so much better at them. You're like your actual like talent has to be significantly better in order to survive them. Yeah.
Well, that's like some of the old razors, like the backslide plates on those, you could like torque just by standing up, and like that was exciting. Yep. I don't know. Slide bar.
So we deviated away from this, but you were obviously in quite a few, like you were obviously in 3 Brandon Negrete videos, and the later ones ended up just having like bigger and bigger casts in it, like bigger names in it. Because, you know, the first one had people like Ollie Short and stuff like that, but it was before Ollie Short became like Face the Music Ollie Short, like Rosie's Ollie Short. He was still just this random kid on USD that had paid for himself to go out to America and just tried to make it. And, you know, there was people like James Snitters and stuff like that. But again, they weren't like big names in blading. But as it moved on to like, you know, The Meantime and Road to Nowhere, there was people like Farmer in there, Brosco was in there. You know, you had all these much bigger names. Were you like, obviously you said you were skating with Farmer, but were you actually skating with like any of the bigger name guys during the making of those videos or not?
Yeah, like Broscow was early on like a big influence as far as like going big. Like I guess back in the KFC days.
Yeah.
Like he was capable of doing pretty much anything that he wanted and landing it like solid. So I always thought of him as, I guess from not getting to hang out with him as much, like when I was younger, I had him as like some kind of iconic, like, wow, like kind of like Farmer or something, even though Farmer had become like a buddy. So with them knowing each other, I guess, and then Negretti actually getting Broscow to like, skate in the video.
Yeah.
I think that was Road to Nowhere, I guess, right then. That he
Also, I always get Road to Nowhere in The Meantime mixed up. I was sure. It
was because he had it was the Misfit section for that one.
Okay.
But yeah, we would go to Kansas actually a lot. Like I went to Kansas with Farmer like 4 times. Like he was filming for Vibrolux for one of the times, while I was just like getting clips for Negretti myself, because Chris had a camera as well.
Yeah.
And so getting to skate with like Broscow, he was like one of the other big names or like super like influential skaters that became a buddy of mine. I'm just trying to think. I skated with Happy like random times out in California with like Negretti. Some of the other big names. shit. No, I'm trying to think, man. Well, no, I just pretty much Kansas. I would go back and forth to Kansas.
Yeah.
So Broscow was like one of the only other like big names. I'm just trying to also think at the same time who else was in videos. Shit, I did get to skate with Kaya.
Kaya Tursky.
It was when I met Mike, Lily, and Sean actually. Okay, cool. Yeah, because I not flew out, but that's the second time I went out to California on the Greyhound to meet up with Negretti, and I immediately ended up hanging out with, I think Ollie was there with Mike and Sean. Okay. And I didn't know how amazing Mike was, like stunt wise.
Right.
And also Sean was like immediately one of the biggest influences on like style, like Flatland. Like he could just do a topsoil and it would look cool as shit. Like just the way he'd skate up to something look cool. And yeah, I don't know. Trying to think who else. Cause I know like there was that deal where like Mike Johnson was in a clip hanging out with like Kaya, and I saw like Brenton Wheeler.
Yeah, I know the one you mean, yeah.
Yeah, like seeing like Mike Johnson was so like iconic. Like I would be really quiet if I like skated near him or skated around him. Like I only skated with him at like maybe the hoedown. So certain people like that, it was cool that there were still like next level types in my mind. Like even though I was like cool with some of the like more iconic skaters, like I still had like that geek out kind of thing. Like, oh my gosh, like, you know, like there's Randy Spicer. Like if I saw him, like even though Randy was nice. He's the reason I got some deshies for free for a while. Like Negretti introduced us.
I was going to ask about that because I was going to ask if you ever get hooked up by any boot companies, because it did seem like you were riding Deshi for quite a while.
Yeah, that randomly was just like a hangout at like Sunshine, the Sunshine distribution office. I went with Negretti. I forget why exactly, but yeah, we just got talking, and then he got me hooked up with like Randy Spicer on that. Sorry, I see some people outside of my window. I thought it might be the maintenance people. My bad. I didn't want to have to cut it short. Nope, just some people.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Sorry, I keep like trailing off.
You were talking about getting hooked up with Deshi through Randy.
Oh yeah. So skated a few pairs of those, and then I got a kind of an odd pair. They look like moon boots. I don't want to be rude to the company that was, but something didn't click. I didn't like them, so I ended up going. There was a session I was with, I think Farmer, Lonnie, and I think Rob G was there, and we were right down the street from Eisenberg's, and I was like, man, let's just go there. I want to like see if they have some like TRS or something. Like, so I ended up buying a pair of TRS before I went out to California to film the rest of Road to Nowhere. So the second pair of those that I skated, I actually just straight up bought myself. So I guess I kind of just ditched Deshi at that point.
Right.
So that was, you do things.
Some of their skates were weird. I think you're talking about the Zamora ones. They were just really big, weird, gray and white, massive boot things. I know what you mean.
Didn't work right. Didn't feel right. I don't know. So I ended up going back to those gray TRS, like the rollerblades, and then I put like blue frames on them, which I kind of now in retrospect, I like that pair of skates like so much. Like just something about, I guess the backslides are really good on those too. So
was Road to Nowhere the last Negretti video you were in? Is that right?
No, I guess it went Road to Nowhere, and then Meantime was
Meantime. Sorry, that's what I mean. Was Meantime the last one? Yeah. Did you? That is the last video you were in, right? The last Negretti video.
He like later on around 2008, he hit me up. I was living with my ex-girlfriend just close to downtown, like close to where I live now. and he had hit me up and asked me to come out to New York. Actually, like he wanted to fly me out to film some for Regardless.
Yeah.
And that was like that was like later on, like late 2008. And I went out there and we stayed at Eric Stokely's parents' house.
All right. No way.
So that was cool. I'd never been to New Jersey, so it was intense getting to the airport, and then from the airport LaGuardia in New York to New Jersey.
Yeah, because
I took every method of transportation.
New Jersey's like closer to Philadelphia than it is to New York.
So I got off the flight and then took, I think, a taxi to Grand Central. Ended up on a train. I took everything but a bus, like basically a mode of transportation.
Right. Okay.
So there's I ended up on a train ride into New Brunswick, which is where Stokely's parents lived. And that place is just so cool. It was just, I don't know, kind of cool. East Coast has like its own architectural vibe, I'm sure. So it was just, you could definitely tell you weren't like in Texas. And the cool thing was hanging out in the basement. I guess getting to meet like Stokely's like local buddies, like friends that didn't skate. And like some of them I think were like bike riders, like BMXers.
All right.
So it was just a cool hangout. And I think that was like for maybe 4 days. So I got a few clips and I was going to film a section for that. But I just I guess my relationship with that girl that I was with at the time, like took over. And so I started to fade away from skating, like probably around like 2010.
Okay.
And I think that video came out like at the end of 2010 or 2011.
Yeah, it was around about that time. Yeah, because that was when I started the magazine. So it was that year. I think it was either 2011 or 2012. Yeah, probably 2011. Yeah.
Because I think the last footage I got for like a video was for Brian Moore for The City Never Sleeps.
Right.
And so yeah, that was around that time.
Because I was gonna ask, because like, were you still in contact or like close with Brandon when he passed, or had you guys kind of drifted apart?
Drifted apart, but not like we had any kind of falling out. It was kind of interesting, like before like technology or before social media is the way it is now. Like you and I are talking just over Zoom, which is cool as hell. Like back then it was just pretty much like I mean, we had MySpace, Facebook, things like that. So we'd say hi, and I knew what he was. I think he was more focusing on like film, like getting into like film production.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we were friends, like kept in touch, but not like on a weekly or even like a monthly basis. So it was definitely, of course, a shock, like to hear when he had passed, but we hadn't been in like direct communication probably for like a year.
Okay. Yeah. Well, because obviously, yeah, it was definitely a different time then. It was a lot hard. Like now you've basically got no excuse for not keeping up with your friends. Like you can easily just WhatsApp or I don't know, FaceTime or whatever. Whereas back then it was like, it wasn't as easy to keep in touch or communicate. So you could easily, not like fall out, but just like lose contact with people.
Yeah, because it was crazy. Like you wouldn't see someone like in person or like through a video chat. Like by the time you saw someone else in person, like if you guys met up, it's like you would be different. Like you have aged, or like your hair would be different. I don't know. It's just it's crazy how like now it's like so well connected.
Yeah. So like you said, did you just like stop skating, or did you just stop traveling for skating? Like what, like as in, were you still doing it? You just weren't putting yourself out there as much, or did you just kind of drift away and find other interests?
Kind of just like drifted away. I wanted to say that I was getting into art, but I didn't want to be like a downer, like too depressing. I guess I got into drinking and fashion.
I mean,
And
everyone gets into partying at some point. It's inevitable.
Yeah, because I guess just being so tied into skating, like growing up, I think that there might have been just like I didn't miss out on anything, but maybe like the whole party culture going out and like just being, I don't want to say like a hipster, but to be like a scenester maybe. It's like you're just basically like, it's almost like a retreading of like high school in that way of like social cred just for like showing up to a place and like looking a certain way, or I don't know, somehow fashion got into it. And I think alcohol and like just, yeah, going out partying. I also got into making music a little bit there with my friend Michael Stein.
Okay.
So there's like mostly like music, girls, and then fashion and alcohol.
Same old story. I get you. So that's what I was going to ask. I was going to say, have you kept in touch with anyone from your blading days? But it kind of sounds like you and Michael Stein have maintained your friendship after, because he doesn't still skate either, does he?
I've been told, well, yeah, he does.
All right.
Still has a pair of skates because, like, it wasn't too recent. It was sometime last year, though. I saw him do like a back twerk on like a skate park rail,
Okay.
like on a flat rail, and I was like, okay, he's still got like tricks, like cool. And he told me that he had gone and like rolled around a few times, so he still has the skates. But yeah, Michael is like probably one of my, like, he would be my best friend from like back around high school. So definitely still like keep in touch. And he lives out in California now, so I don't see him like often. Um, but like one of my friends from high school that I grew up skating with, that was like in the cool crew, kind of like he was friends with Shane Scour and like his like crew. He came over and we like kind of geeked out and talked about skating. And it's just crazy how much time goes by, like how fast it goes by.
Yeah.
Like that's the real crazy. Because I was talking to a friend at work. I don't know, we had different age range. Like we've had kids that were 16 that were like friends, family friends that work there, all the way to like, I don't know, 40 something. So I was talking to a girl that's like, we've become friends, just like we see like eye to eye on like a lot of things. And I was telling her about, someone had brought up skating, and then someone YouTubed like Forever Now while they're at the cafe.
No
And they
way.
were like bringing people over, being like, hey, come like check out what Chase did. Or like, I don't really tell people unless they ask, because I don't know, it's still very something I'm like super proud of and like excited about, but I still don't feel like people care.
Yes, it's
Um,
one of those things where you're like, depending on your personality, you're like, I just don't want to
yeah,
bore people with this, because you can't just say I used to rollerblade, because
yeah,
it needs a lot more explanation than that. Because if you just tell someone, "Oh, I rollerblade," they no image comes into their head, or if it does, it's probably not an accurate one. So that
like a Venice Beach, like
yeah, so you then have to
multicolored.
elaborate, and or you have to show them examples, and then it becomes a whole thing, and you're like, this is quite draining having to go through this with you. Whereas, yeah,
Yeah, that's why I was like, well, one of the girls asked, she's like, so like you like skated, blah blah. I was like, yeah, you can just like YouTube my name, whatever, it's cool. Pull up one of those. And I didn't realize, I don't know, it's exciting to see someone that doesn't even skate or really know what they're looking at be like kind of like drawn into it. Like it's cool. I go back to that high school kind of mentality where I'm like, no, like if anything, you might just make fun of it, like whatever. But to see that people are like really just open minded now about it, it was, oh, going back though to my friend. She's like, so when did you make this? Like, when is this from? I was like, oh, it's been a while. I was like 2004, around then. And she's like, I was born like in 2004. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, okay. Like, yeah, time does go by really fast. And then like when you talk about like, for instance, like how did you entertain yourself on a bus ride? It's like I listen to my fucking spindle of mixed CDs, my burnt CDs, and like, what the fuck's that? Like, I don't know. I had to describe a VHS tape to someone not too long ago. That was kind of recent.
Yeah.
Like describing this like boxing with like the tape rolls in it, and I was like, yeah, it's a VHS, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I know that well. I've got a 5-year-old daughter, and I've got some CDs in the car just from like, you have CDs from like being a teenager or whatever,
yeah, they'd be like, what is
and
this?
like I see, so I'll just randomly like pick a few every once in a while and go, all right, I'll listen to this, and my daughter's like, so wait, there's one song in this, and I'm like, no, you generally get like 10 or 12. I was like, it's called an album, and she's like, a what? And she's like,
What?
what's an
Like,
album? And I'm like, it's basically like a lot of songs by the same person. And she's like, okay, but like, don't they just have those like on the, I don't know, like the computer
yeah,
or the speaker or like the Alexa or whatever? And I'm like, yeah, but like back then you couldn't just do that. You couldn't just like get any song. You had to like get just a few that you liked and just pay for
yeah.
it. And she'd be like, wait, what? Because she's so used to using like the Amazon like speaker thing where you just say whatever song you want to hear and it just starts
Oh,
playing it. So
yeah.
the concept of having to like be so specific as to go to a shop and only get that artist just makes no sense to her.
Well,
And
yeah.
yeah,
My friend was, I think it was just this last week. I was describing how if you're out with like some buddies and you're like, oh man, there's this new song. I like really love this song. You would have to like wait your turn. I don't know, get the CD to the front of the car unless you're sitting shotgun, and then put the CD in, find that one song. And then, yeah, yeah, the patience. And I think like, I don't want to sound like a ancient person, but yeah, there's just a little bit more excitement to everything,
yeah.
I guess.
Well,
So
it's
yeah.
because especially in music, you felt like, I remember hearing songs and you wouldn't be able to remember the lyrics or how it went. So you wouldn't be able to look it up or figure out what it was.
No, no.
And then you would
Yeah.
have to wait. Like I remember it took me like 3 or 4 years to find this song, and I would just randomly hear it, like, I don't know, in a shop, or then it would come on in a film, and then I'd end up having to like research the film and get to the end of the film and figure out the credits and figure out what position it was in the film, and then I'd be like, oh my god. And then you'd finally discover this artist after several years. Whereas,
Yeah.
whereas now you can literally just turn on your phone, get your phone to listen to it, and it'll go, this is da 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 da, and this is like this
Yeah.
song. And
And
then
give
you
you
just
like a whole history of the artist and everything.
yeah.
Like,
But it definitely takes the excitement away from it because you don't feel like you're just like, oh. And sometimes you'll find out what the song is, and then you'll look it up, you'll have it in your phone, and you'll just forget about it and you won't even listen to it again. Whereas
yeah.
before you'd like treasure it because it'd been this thing that you'd literally found.
Yeah, and I don't know, going to CD stores for hours and just like hunting, yeah, record stores. Man, that got even more intense. Like record stores. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
So obviously, like, yeah, you and Michael Stein were friends, and you said that, you guys have been really close for, since school. It's got to be kind of crazy when like when he came to you one day and went, oh, I'm doing the music for this thing called Stranger Things, and now Stranger Things is this like huge international phenomenon, and the music is like one of the most integral parts of the entire thing. Like it's what creates the atmosphere about it, and
Yeah.
he's responsible for it. That's wild.
Well, it's just kind of it was cool to think about back when he was just like getting into music production, and like it's just crazy to think back and be like, wow, yeah, he really did kind of take to that like naturally, because he would explain everything like basically in our music like making like duo, what band, I guess you'd want to call it, a band. I would just kind of end up getting a little tipsy in like his recording space, and it was at his parents' house. We'd just get kind of like tipsy and like make up a melody and be like, wow, that works, like cool. And then he would just turn around in his chair, like go to his computer, and it was like he took to that like kind of the way skating. He was also natural like with skating.
He was very good at skating. Yeah.
Like he could just kind of study like a switch up, and then he always had slider bars like different levels. There was like a small one, and medium, and then like a large like actual metal like kink row that we'd skate.
Oh God.
And
Okay.
like he could just come up with shit and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna do that," and then like he could take it to the streets, and like it wouldn't scare him to be on like a handicap rail, like where you could, fall, like rib yourself or like rack yourself. He could do all that weird tech shit, like up on, any kind of obstacle. Is crazy. So yeah, he's always been like very influential, like in every way. Like, yeah, like art too. He was always drawing things like that. So, but yeah, to see, um, I don't know, him produce that level of like amazing music, and also his friend that works on that with him, Kyle Dixon.
Yeah.
He's a rollerblader. He's like he made the first skate video that I was in. It
No
was
way.
called Network back in the day. I actually think it's on YouTube.
Okay.
I'll send you the link if I remember to if I look like once we get off.
I'm sure I'll be able to do some deep diving. I'm sure I'll be able to find that. No
Because
problem.
yeah, it should still be on there. And Kyle, he actually did that, and I think he was friends with the two kids in high school that made me kind of feel like, oh, I'm in this thing called rollerblading. Like, I didn't really think about the other kids like being cool or not. And so to find these other kids that were actually in Dallas, because Kyle lived in downtown Dallas, like pretty close to like where I live now. So he like had like sort of like street cred in a way.
Right.
Like he just seemed cooler. I was like, wow, this guy's like, he lives in the city. Like he knows, like downtown skate spots and shit like that. So to get to film with him, yeah, that was like the first skate video I was in. So him and Michael were like really important in as far as like keeping it going.
Yeah.
So yeah, damn, that's so cool. I'll send you that link though.
No, that's awesome. That sounds good. I have asked you at least 100 questions. So how long have we actually been doing this? I've no idea.
All right, yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't want
almost
to.
almost been doing it 2 hours. Yeah, I've taken up a
Oh
lot of
shit.
your afternoon.
Oh,
Yeah, some of those, there's so much of that. There's loads of stuff. I didn't realize you'd spent so much time in California. I don't know what it, you always just kind of get the impression that people go, I don't know, go over for like a week or 2 weeks or crash in someone's house or like someone's floor or whatever. I just assumed you like just stayed on Brandon's floor for a little bit and then
well,
it was like a
yeah.
short vacation. But yeah.
I think his parents at one point, I didn't want to, they weren't rude at all. They're amazing people. They are. Still, I think we're getting kind of like, when's this Texas kid? Like, is he trying to move in? Like, so that's why I ended up staying at like Feinberg's and Farmers, Sayers. I even stayed at like Carl Sturgess. I stayed at his place for a bit.
Right.
So that's why I got to film some for Demode or Demo Day.
Yeah.
I forget I don't know the proper pronunciation.
It's French, so I want to say demode because fashion.
Demode? Oh, that makes sense.
Mode is French for fashion, and demode was anti-fashion. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's like Depeche Mode, fast fashion. Sorry.
Yes. I can't remember the logic for it, but I know it was the French word. Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's even like a little bit of time we went to San Francisco for like, I think 4 hours one night. Like we just drove there and then drove back. Like that was interesting. That was like one of the only times we didn't stay like as like a group. But I think, yeah, that was, wow, San Francisco, that skating there, that's cool. I want to go there again sometime. That's like just beautiful. And same with like New York was like that. Like every like 10 feet, you would see something I'm sure you see like videos with footage of downtown New York. It's just so much cool stuff.
Yeah. There's just all sorts of kind of random obstacles or things that you can make use of in some way that isn't necessarily just a kind of grind or jump over. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't want to like keep on here for too long. It's just, wow. Like I was saying, I'm still kind of new to Zoom. It sounds fun.
I think you've handled it well. The last thing I wanted to ask you was though, like, I kind of feel like you were, well, actually, there's part of me kind of feels like you were wrong place, wrong time, because the type of skating you did then is very much in fashion now, but it kind of sounds like you had all these amazing experiences though. So maybe that was just the time you were meant to skate. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't have got to be in those videos, make those parts and have those experiences with those skaters. But like, have you watched, like, for example, have you seen Mesmer Rising? Like, have you seen their video that they've brought out?
Yeah,
Like, a lot of the skating in that, especially the skating that like Dominic Bruce does with like the heel rolls and the toe rolls and like
I
combining
was
them
gonna
into
say,
tricks, that was all
yeah.
stuff you were doing like 15 years ago.
Well, that's just seeing some of the new variations, like where they do like a cross-legged like double heel roll.
Yeah.
To some of the, it was like rewind, like you have to like, it was exciting like to see that. If and wow, well, thank you for the compliment, saying like I skated anything like that, because it's exciting to see that. I don't know. That video is like one of the most, like, I was just kind of glued to it. But I gotta say that about like almost all the new things, like Zephyr, like the basement.
Yeah.
Like also, I mean, the Philly, like the whole crew there, like everyone's amazing to watch. But I don't know. That's the thing. Like, I guess even though I'm 39 now and I do feel like aches from time to time, like I'm like, damn, was that from like skating? Like, what the fuck? If I get up out of a chair, I might make a noise. Like,
That might just be 39.
but I still feel like, and knock on wood, I want to, like, I've been inspired to want to go out and skate by like watching like Dominic and like everyone. I mean, like seeing Billy still kill it. Not still. I mean, that feel weird saying still. Like Billy's
Oh
killing it.
no, yeah, he's still going strong, and he's had a lot of bad injuries over the years. Like he's very nearly died at least 2 or 3 times that I know of. So yeah.
Well, that terrible, the car, like when you have that long shot, I forget who filmed it, but he like
Oh,
gaps into a bank.
in Barcelona, yeah.
Yeah, and all
Billy's
you
been hit
hear
by
is,
2 more cars since then. Two. One in New
yeah.
York, one in California, and one was a really bad brain injury. So
Oh, that
Billy's,
was a bicycle thing, right?
yeah,
Or was,
Billy's very lucky to be alive.
well, he's still killing it, because
Yeah.
I'm thinking of reference like from the video as like to get clips, like that's one thing to be like solid clips. He had like hammers like that drift over a true top porn star to
Yeah.
50, like that shit
That
was,
thing is terrifying. Like that's not the trick you do on that spot.
but he did it with like the, like that's like solid, just it was perfect. Like,
Yeah, the
yeah,
execution of it was flawless.
because on things like that, like I always was afraid to do bigger tricks, so I don't have any need or any like push to do that kind of
Yeah.
skating. But I want to get back into like some flatland, because I've become just like a bicycle like enthusiast just to get around. Like I don't drive like in Dallas, like I just get around by bike. And so it helped fill that gap of like always wanting to get exercise in, like, because you don't realize with like skating, that's just like great cardio all day every day, like.
It works out muscles you do not realize you have. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the thing, if you do it now, like after going a while without skating, you can pinpoint the soreness of like
Yeah.
everything, and you're like, well, damn, like I'm strengthening that when I'm skating, like holy shit. Because bike riding, I swear, it's like you're almost just, it's like you feel swimming almost, like you're just kind of,
Yeah, I know what you
complete,
mean. Yeah.
like. So yeah, it's definitely, I feel like skating could, I still have like that craving or that need to like get energy out. And I think that, I don't know, trying some flatland stuff would just, there's still something exciting to it. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
See that there's progression, like, there's still a possibility for new things you wouldn't have thought of. Like that's super exciting.
Yeah, you said it earlier. It's like jazz. Like you can literally just, like brainstorm on a pair of skates and just see what you come up with. And you don't actually need an obstacle to do it. You could literally do it just on the ground.
Yeah. And I mean, shit, that's exciting. And it's, in that way, it helps to like extend like the life of a skater.
Yeah.
Seemed for a while, like back when, I don't know, like when I started, is like there's a level of like ruggedness to like you're gonna get worked like daily. Like
Yeah.
if you because you learn to catch yourself pretty well, but as we do get older, like I could see you pulling something out of place or out of the socket, dislocating shit so easy now. Like from just grabbing a rail to catch yourself, you might like fuck your wrist up. Like,
Oh yeah, like
way worse.
Yeah, you can think because you've caught the rail, you're going to be okay, but you could easily just, I don't know, pull your shoulder out or your wrist or
Yeah. I can't walk tomorrow now. Like my lower back. It's like, I mean, I've gotten hurt just like getting something, like jumping up on something to like unplug a light at work and then not thinking about it and jumping off of like a booth, like only about 1.5 feet down, but landing like maybe stiff legged or like straight back. And you're just like, oh fuck, did I fuck myself up? Like to have to think about it like that now, it's like, damn.
Yeah.
But I still see skating as being like, okay, we'll just be casual about it. And
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It can be whatever you want it to be. It can be as dangerous or as safe as you want it to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Still get that same kind of, I don't know, just that solid feel like from, either stunt or just maybe going around the block.
That's awesome. Well, it was great talking to you today. I'm glad after, yesterday I was like, God, is this going to be, or is he just going to be busy, or are we going to get to this? But I'm glad we got to do it. And
because I was procrastinate on things, and then like work has had me to where I feel like if I do one thing, like if I like, I've worked today, that was, something. It's like, no, I need to have more effort.
Well, this has been absolutely awesome. Some of your stories were really great, and glad we did it. So I hope you do more stuff with Mesmer, and if you do get out and start messing about in Flatland, I want to see some footage of it going online so that we can see it.
Yeah. Well, because there's a healthy skating crew here. Like I should mention, there's got to be one of my best friends growing up, Danny. He's skating better than like he's ever skated in his life. He probably goes daily. The younger crew and some of the older crew, like from when I was growing up, they're all like, they have day jobs, children, husbands, wives, all that. So it's cool to see everyone on the same page in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that I've been welcomed back. Like whenever I want to jump into it, like to get back out there, like I get asked like weekly by like my friends here. So
that's awesome.
I don't know. Yeah. It seems like it's time to get on that.
I think you should. Yeah.
And well, the weather here as well, it's normally cold as shit for like 3 months at least.
Right.
And not even that cold. I'm a baby, but with global warming, we had like an 81-degree Christmas day here in Texas.
Okay. Yeah.
So like yesterday it was in the 30s, and today I think it's like 60 something. So there's definitely some sessionable weather.
Yeah, no excuses. All right.
Well, thank you again, though.
Awesome, man. It was good talking to you, and
you too.
Hopefully we'll see more from you in the future.
Well, and I will send you that link for that network.
Oh, yeah, please do. That'd be awesome.
All right, David. Well, it was nice again.
Yeah, man. Bye.
Bye, David.